The Nightfarers. The will to cross the endless night and fight on.
Coming into 2025, if you told me Elden Ring Nightreign would be my biggest sleeper game of this year, I would have called you a liar. Now, saying it's a sleeper doesn't necessarily mean it's the best. The thing with Claire Obscure, because I know that's what a lot of people's mind is going to go to, I was already excited for that game. I assumed I was already going to like that game when I saw the first trailer. Did I know it was going to be as big as it was? Absolutely not. But I had already had that game on my radar. I was already excited for that game. So it didn't really shock me that I really liked it. I didn't really think I would like Elden Ring Nightreign. If you don't know what Elden Ring Nightreign is, it's essentially Elden Ring, but they transformed the game into a roguelike. The way this game works is there's technically 3 nights in a run. Each night is filled with like a night boss, which will be like one of the major bosses. But throughout the day, you're going through, you're defeating many bosses, you're clearing camps, there's different things you can do, there's raid bosses and stuff like that. Essentially to build up your level, gather loot, to prepare yourself for the big end boss at day 3. Loot is randomized. Everything is basically randomized, which gives it like that roguelike feel where every run feels unique to each other. So yeah, it's essentially a game where you're trying to get the best loot, trying to build up the most level to prepare yourself for the big boss at the end of day 3 and beat that boss. I was excited when this game was initially announced. As somebody who loves Souls games, behind fighting games, Souls games are probably my favorite style of games, and I've finished every one, at least from the From Software side of things. But when we saw gameplay and we saw that this is essentially a game built upon randomness, right? Random loot, random bosses, like basically RNG built From Software game. On top of, it looked like it was essentially just built for multiplayer. Like, yes, you can play solo, but it looked like they built this game with multiplayer in mind. With these games, I have played multiplayer with my friends, like to get like before, but my preference with Souls games is I like to play them solo. And when I was seeing gameplay for this, I was like, I don't know how much I will love the RNG aspect of this. One of my favorite parts of like playing a Souls game and kind of like a whole basis of it is you want to be in control of how you're building your character, right? Everybody wants to play the game differently. You want to be in control of how you're building your character because everybody has a different play style. So the RNG like aspect of this game combined with basically being forced to play with people I don't know and depend on them, it had me kind of scratching my head like, I don't necessarily know if this game is going to be for me. This was further emphasized when I tried the stress test and I was playing through the game. And I was like, you know what? I'm not really loving this stress test. Like, there was fun to be had, but I think it wasn't enough time for me to really understand what this game was trying to do and kind of understand the systems. I was just like, you know what? You're kind of just thrown into the fire in the stress test. You don't really learn much. It's just like, here, try this game out. And I don't feel like the stress test was a kind of like a good like presentation of what the actual game turned out to be. So it just kind of furthered how much I really just wasn't sure if I was going to like this game. Fast forward and this game releases and I play it and I'm immediately confused. Here's the thing about Nightreign, right? This game does not hold your hand. There is a tutorial and it explains some things, but they basically throw you in the midst of this game and they tell you to figure it out. And this isn't gonna be for everybody, right? A lot of people really need that tutorial. They need that hand holding, and it's okay to need that in a fight. That doesn't make you less of a gamer for you wanting to understand how to play a game, right? But I found myself being more intrigued with the aspect of figuring out what this camp does and figuring out where I go to get specific loot and figuring out which boss gives this and figuring out the gold stuff and where I get stone keys and figuring out which character benefits in this boss fight. I was having so much fun with the idea of figuring out how the game worked that my like disinterest immediately turned into I need to play this game every day because I need to figure this out. I personally think each of the characters are fun in their own way. There's some that are more fun than others, in my opinion. I like the choices for the big major bosses. Yes, they are annoying Yes, playing with teammates can be annoying if they don't really know what to do. But when you finally get a run where everything is seemingly going your way, you're able to beat that final boss. The big thing with Souls games, right, is it's frustrating. We all know that. Souls games are frustrating. People I know, like people like to be like, I'm so good at this game, it's not frustrating, right? But the whole point of Souls games is that you get a lot of this frustration and then you get such a big sense of relief and kind of self gratification when you actually beat the bosses. And this translates into this game, at least like for me, tenfold, right? Because what you're doing is you're going through multiple days, you're beating multiple bosses, right? So let's say, for example, you lose to the major boss on day 3, right? That is heartbreaking because you went through 3 days of getting loot, figuring out your build and stuff like that just to lose to the major boss, and you have to start all the way over again from day 1. For a lot of people, this is going to be a concept where this is too much, and I could completely understand that from other people's point of view. The idea of you like essentially having to go through it says 3 days, but it's technically 2 days because day 3 is just a major boss. You have to go through and repeat the process of multiple days all over again, rebuild your character all over again, just for a chance to fight this boss. And if you're coming from Souls games, right, you're used to, okay, I died at this boss, there's a grace nearby, I can just go to this grace and go fight the boss again. This game doesn't really have that concept. You have to start all the way over again. And honestly, that is something that is going to alienate a good portion of players. And that's kind of fair, right? Especially to people whose first Souls game was probably Elden Ring, and you're just accustomed to going to this grace and going immediately to the boss. This is a completely different experience. And I can understand if people are overwhelmed by the concept of having to do all of that over again, and maybe the gameplay loop just isn't that fun for you. And honestly, the game isn't easy, right? There's RNG on day 1 and day 2 bosses, so you don't know which boss you can get. Like, you can get like an easy boss like Wormface or something like that, right? A boss I don't consider that difficult, right? And you're like, okay, this is good. But then you can have another day where you get the Nameless King, which is not a fun boss to have to fight through. So I understand people's criticism of the system of this game, but for me personally, the satisfaction you get after going through those multiple day runs of losing, and you finally beat a boss is some of the most gratifying things I have. Like the feeling, the gratification is some of the highest gratification I've ever had playing a video game. I love how they handled the mini boss / mini events in the game where like maybe something like you were invaded by something, or like you've been cursed, like things like that. It really add like an element of, okay, what should I prioritize? Should I just kind of hold this and try to beat the boss? Should I go deal with this, but I give up like basically time to go do other stuff and level up? There's so many thought things that happen in your head until a run. So what should I prioritize for this specific boss? Should I go get his weakness? Do I have relics that already attack their weakness that I can save time? Should I go get a smithing stone? There's so many things to think about when you're doing a run in this game that it makes your brain fire on all cylinders. And I'm like, okay, my brain is going a million miles per hour. If you're worried about the solo experience is great too. I've beat most of the bosses myself. Like, I've just beat them solo, and I find solo to be completely manageable, especially if you're playing like Iron Eye or something like that. I'm just shocked by this game because coming into it, it was something I was almost confident that I really would not like. And I have spent so much time playing it, and it's weird because it's a game that makes me want to make content. Now, if you notice on the channel, I have not been the most consistent lately, and the biggest reason for that is there just hasn't been stuff that I wanted to play. And this is a game where I'm like, wow, I can keep playing this. Now, is everything perfect? No. I think the biggest valid criticism I've seen of this game is the lack of content. Because essentially this game is an asset flip of Elden Ring. They don't really add anything new outside of, like, obviously the characters and then the day 3 bosses. But everything within the actual game, excluding that, It's just assets used from Elden Ring. So if you played a lot of Elden Ring, the game probably won't feel really that fresh to you in terms of content. And I think that's a valid point. That is definitely a valid criticism. I think the only thing that'll really alleviate that criticism, because the thing is, this isn't a live service game, right? This is a straight up game, standalone. It is what it is. I don't know how much From Software is going to add into this game. I don't know if they plan to add new maps. I don't know if they plan to add new bosses. I think kind of the cop out thing here would be to add harder versions of the day 3 bosses. I think that's fine, but I don't think that's necessarily what the community wants. I think the community would prefer us to get just brand new day 3 bosses, brand new day 2 bosses. I feel like this is a game with a lot of potential. There's so many things you can add: new maps, new characters, new Ashes of Wars, new spells, just a bunch of new stuff. But I don't know how much they're actually going to put into this game. I think we're already aware that they're working on the game for the Nintendo Switch 2. And my assumption is that they're also working on the game that's after whatever that is, their next major game. So I think that's a valid criticism when it comes to the actual content of the game. Because I think if you play this enough, the gameplay loop will start feeling stale because, okay, like, I've beaten the game, right? I'm just fighting the same thing over and over and over again. And then after a while, your gameplay loop is going to feel stale because you're doing the same thing and there really isn't nothing new. They've added some things, right? Like they're shifting Earths, which I don't know if there's a way to consistently change your shifting Earth. And that kind of changes the map a bit, but I don't think it's anything drastic to be like, wow, this is a brand new experience. It's essentially Elden Ring, but they just made it a roguelike. Another thing, the servers are not that great. There's times where I've struggled to just match up with people, where it just says I'm waiting for people and it just takes forever. Apparently it has something to do with the nat type. This is kind of an issue that has always plagued like Souls games where like matchmaking just isn't great. My first Souls game was actually Bloodborne, and if you've ever played Bloodborne, you know how terrible the matchmaking in Bloodborne can be. So this is kind of like an issue that just plagues Souls games that I hope they can begin to work out. It's pretty decent in Elden Ring. At least I remember it being pretty decent. But I don't know. I just feel like in general, for a game to be based upon multiplayer, you really can't have the multiplayer not work that great. So that's one big thing I've noticed. Overall, is this a perfect experience? No. Is this game gonna be for everybody? No. But this game is for me. And that's all I'm looking for when it comes to games, right? If I consider everybody when I'm playing the games, we're all different people. We all enjoy different things. What you love, I probably won't love. What I love, you probably won't love. And I think people have valid criticisms of this game, and I will never invalidate people's feelings about a medium because your opinions are your own. But this game is doing everything I thought it wouldn't do for me. It is making me excited from the future of From Software games. I didn't have interest in this game, and it made me not interested in the, what is it called? Whatever the new Nintendo Switch From Software game is called. But now I find myself very interested in the Switch 2 From Software game. And yeah, I just had a great time with this game. Is it for everybody? No, but it is for me. If you're a From Software fan, let me know what you think about Nightreign in the comment section below. Do you hate it? Do you love it? Are you going to continue to play it? Do you think they're going to update it? Let me know in the comment section below. As always, everybody, pass class, don't eat ass. I'm out this bitch.